Messy, messy files. Please pay no attention to me not knowing what memes are. No, I don't. Alright. Yeah, you use the film. Oh, I wanted to share it. I meant to open 11, not 12. Why do I even have them both installed? I like 11 better. It's easier to work with for me personally. But wait, I should probably open for more 12. This is hmm. This is probably confusing my computer. Okay. Boop. Please upgrade your plan. No, I do not want to upgrade plan. I want to. Oh, okay. Woo! We're waiting for more to do its thing, and it's not responding. I should also open Fire Alpaca. Oh boy. Hmm. Also, apologies for not having my webcam on. I had to turn off my ring light, so I could exist in a fuller capacity. What's Filmo Wondershare doing? Here we go. Open up that pilot. So I should also fish out my tablet from the great beyond. Like, I had a tablet stand I could lean my tablet on so I could, like, use it better, but the thing is, my tablet stand has disappeared, probably under the mess that my desk currently is. I'm not good at keeping my space clean. In fact, it looks like a raccoon lives in it. Jacob is saying up? Yeah, he's gonna be in here, I guess. Meanwhile, my computer is purring like a cat that has just gotten out of the bag. Probably wouldn't kill me to clean more. Actually, I should probably open Gotcha Club. I meant to type in G. Missing? Oh shit. This is my stream on my channel, so I can swear in here. But that's not good. Where is it? Is it right here? Okay, we good. I think we're good. If we need good, I'm gonna be very upset. Oh, hi. I'm gonna hide you. Okay, what do we got here? Okay, that was a little buggy. Excuse me, Fillmore? What do you want? Okay, that scene is still working as intended. Uh... Okay. Like, I'm having, some time with this. By some time, I mean I'm having a day with this. I can't ever get these to be, like, correctly synced. Having, the light turn on when the light switch noise happens is apparently too much for Fillmore. Okay, that's better. There we go. Like, the lighting effects here is just like a black and white split screen gradient. I just, flipped it. This was for another video I made, but it has a good purpose here. Okay, I'm just gonna rewatch this to make sure everything is correct. Oh, hi, noise? I guess that's Jacob in the wings. There we go.
I wait in the shadows, scheming.
What are you scheming? Are you here to watch
I
my
have no
ADHD?
idea.
Are you here to watch my ADHD editing process?
I mean, you invited me, so
Yeah, we're also here to talk about exposition and what not to
yeah,
do.
yeah, exactly. We're doing a detailed diatribe, are we?
Yes, we're doing a detailed diatribe, but don't mind me, I'm just editing a video in the background so the people can have some sort of visual.
Yeah,
Because,
fair enough.
I think, you streamed the, current, newest, redone episode of Mystic Hills.
I did, debuting this version 2 of my VTuber model that you have made. So yes, everyone watching this stream right now, yeah, be sure to subscribe, show some support thanks to because of this. In case you enjoy
By
my
the way,
non-babyface self in this form.
oh, I didn't mean to do
If you enjoy seeing my non-babyface self multiple versions, then subscribe infinite amount of times. There we go. I guess that works.
Like, but I gotta say, this one is significantly less terrifying looking.
Yep, that was the idea.
Like, I went ahead and gave the model softer, rounder eyes. I actually made sure to get all of the hex codes so all of the skin colors would be correct.
Yeah, that's true. I
Also,
didn't
did
do
you know your eyes were very dark brown instead of black, like your other model?
Oh no, yeah, that was deliberate. When I was a kid, I used to think that my eyes were just completely black and I just had massive pupils and no irises until like I looked at myself very intensely in a mirror one day and saw that yes, they are actually like very dark brown. There is like a little bit of a difference, but you have to look very closely, which is why when I made my gacho see, I used the darkest brown I possibly could just to make sure that was still represented, then fade the pupils to make it seem like they were one entity, and then try to do my best with that
Valid.
with the VTuber, the
I
version
think
one that
my
is.
eyes are like blue. Pretty sure my eyes are blue. I haven't looked recently.
Fair enough.
I just always make them blue because that's what I like.
I mean, yeah, that's a very classic Aiden move, definitely.
Listen, at least I know how to work with a team sometimes. I at least try to communicate.
Speaking of trying to communicate, who promoted this stream at all?
No, I usually don't have anyone to promote it to.
But
I normally just sit
you're
here.
in you're in like a lot of the group chats that I'm in. Like do that. Like there's a reason that I end up seeing those repeated messages. Hang on a second. I need to I had to make some
You're going
arrangements.
to you're going to promote this for me? How dare you? I'm just kidding.
I mean,
Promote if you want to. Literally don't care.
right. Oh, this is
Speaking of
called editing slash chill stream. Like again, mention the thing they're going to talk about. Talking about exposition. That's a good topic. That will bring in people to, you know,
like
discuss that.
I think I
Writers
could
and
I I think I can change the name of the stream. Hold on.
it's been,
Editing slash what should I call this stream?
I don't know. Call it
What should
detailed
I call
diatribe
it?
if you want. Detailed diatribe exposition. No, I tell you what. Yeah, editing and talking about exposition. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Or I don't know. As we know, exposition is bad. Here's why.
Exposition, like that actually gets us like on topic for the stream. Okay, we still going. It's still working.
Oh
Thanks,
yeah, it's
Mo.
still working. I actually can't see the title from the from the non-host perspective. Oh, now I can. Yes.
Yeah, now we're good. Now we're good.
Okay. I'm not used to not being a host on Restream. It's very
Well, welcome to not being a host.
yeah. I think it means that this thing processes a bit faster. I'm not entirely sure.
Like probably I don't care. Like I was talking about like something with editing, speaking of the thing I'm doing. Literally I have this overlay to give the lighting effects on the room.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
Now that I'm interested in.
Can you actually see it?
I can see the lighting difference. Let me just go full screen so I can properly read everything.
Like, I turned it to blend mode multiply and lowered its opacity, but if I actually bring its opacity back up and change the image back to normal, you can see it's just black and white
okay.
here.
I see.
I can actually, like, kind of adjust it a good bit. I can also flip it, which is hilarious because it looks like the poster of Adam is emitting the light.
It also looks like I guess it does technically match a little more. I guess depending on like where the sun is in this at this point, you could say that it's just
Like,
pointing in the other direction.
it's
But yeah, the illumination on the poster that does kind of throw things off a little bit.
like it does kind of throw things off, but I can easily go back into my art program and fix that.
Oh yeah, true.
Since I made this custom background, I could edit everything about it.
Yeah. You know, it never
But
ceases to make me laugh the fact that this is Monster Compendium, and yet Ulrich is always the one who looks like a gremlin.
listen, I accidentally wrote him to be a gremlin boy. I'm not too sure why, and neither do I understand. Like, you
Happy
can
accident, I
actually
suppose.
listen to the voice of a wonderful actress here, King Blade. I can never get that to not look weird.
There's some facial expressions in Gacha that I just avoid using at all costs. Which used to be a
Yeah,
complaint that
that
I
and
got back in the day, you know.
I've
From
kind of
quality.
I kind of green screened the mouth over the face.
Oh god. Oh no.
Listen, I couldn't find a solution. This is the
Look,
guy.
I was gonna say William did that exact same thing, and then I tried it out for a while. Because actually Monet suggested that that's what people do nowadays, and that's part of the evolution or something. But the thing is that whenever I matched it up, I didn't experiment on Fallen Angels. I matched it up, and only when I told people there was a difference between the two mouths could they actually tell the difference. So it's like, well, if people don't notice when it's like synced up and it isn't like uncanny, then what's the point? So I just stopped doing it.
Like, if you want, we could like watch over the entire stream I have so far before we, hop into what we're actually here to talk about.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I don't know if I can actually hear it on Restream itself, but your chat might be able to. Again, I'm working on generating a link with my phone.
Listen, is there a way we can do that so you can actually hear it?
Well, it depends. I think if you go onto Share tab Audio when you select the screen, the screen share, that should be fine. It doesn't let you do that with individual windows usually, so.
In that case, I'm going to try something special, and I'm going to see if it works.
Okay. By the way, this is natural exposition. Incidentally, I'm telling Ghosty new information based on stuff that she doesn't know before.
Yeah.
Which is why it does not come off as hacky that I'm doing so.
Basically,
I can hear myself now.
Oh no. Is there a way I can fix that?
Okay, show the stream.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no. Screen and audio. Okay, I'm gonna. I'm so sorry. I'm Okay. Just give me a minute. That wasn't.
Wow, I didn't know I had a blanket monster for a son. Who's going to eat my pancakes now?
Fermats.
And that's like pretty much all I have so far. Though I think I can tweak it a little bit to that like the editing program shows. I only had sharing my entire screen so everyone could also see the art program I'm using, just kind of chilling in the background.
There you go. And all the information. It's good for these editing streams. Unless you're doing them Johnny style, in which case they're mainly an excuse for roleplay at the same time.
Yeah, I don't understand that, but apparently Restream does not recognize Filmora Wondershare as a program I can stream. What? Is this thing just broken or am I dumb? Probably
I know
both.
you had it before as a visual, so I don't know why it's not working now.
Like, here we go. I just need to turn off the stream audio so you guys can't hear all of the audio going on while I'm editing. Anyway, Jacob, give me the information on, like, I know a little bit about exposition. It's just, I know that exposition is basically conveying information to an audience. The story within the story, if you will. But I have no idea how to do that in any natural way. That doesn't feel like, I'm just playing my audience for fools.
But yeah, usually it comes out of yeah. So just to use that example, because again, if this is a detailed diatribe kind of thing, we got to give some examples. Yesterday, I did a stream where I reviewed the second remake of episode 1 of Mystic Hills, the one called Recreation and not Reboot. And in that version, but the issue that came up a lot, especially towards the beginning, but honestly throughout, was that the two of the main characters are having a conversation with another main character, and but they clarify that it's the same story that this main character tells every single day, meaning that to them it is not new information. It is new information for the audience. That's really the difference a lot of the time, is that if it feels like you're just telling something just for the sake of the audience and it's not worked into the story, that's 99% of the cases why exposition can end up becoming bad rather than good.
Like, I'm also going to bring up the Monster Compendium script because you looked at it quite some time ago and gave me a tip on how to, make the exposition feel a little more natural.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Monster Compendium script, here it is.
Mm-hmm. I guess spoiler alert, considering that this is the very channel it's going to come out on.
Actually, no. I've actually made a different channel for all the gacha stuff. I'm just preparing it, and it's not quite ready to see content yet.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be making an update video about that as soon as Monster Compendium is in a workable state. But anyone watching this stream should expect some spoilers because it is an editing stream.
That is true. That is the unfortunate drawback of the Johnny method. Other than, I guess, I see, to be fair, with him, considering that the audience kind of dictates the direction of the story a lot of the time now, they know what to expect going in.
Like, I don't understand that method.
I get it to an extent because I like the audience being able to have an input, especially if they're the ones consuming the content. But it maybe comes across a little bit like it's a lack of confidence issue with writing, which probably is not helped by the consistent reviews. But either way, it does it does mean that there's less of a chance to actually surprise anyone, and I definitely like me a good surprise. That's the thing. I don't like all the information at once. So tying this back into the exposition part, giving too much information at once when it could be worked in more organically, actually is definitely the preferred method. Is more advantageous. And
yes, as I already told you.
Yeah,
we should probably keep our eyes open for that.
that was the line that was used a lot in the Mystic Hills recreation, as I discovered. Yeah, so there's been a thing for a while in Gacha Review where I've constantly said that I despise the phrase "as you know," a hatred that has been passed down for me from watching The Nostalgia Critic for several years. But regardless, he has a point. He's right. "As you know" is definitely the laziest line of dialogue, because if the person already knows something, why is it being told to them? And the easiest solution is just have them not know the information. Bring up an update to something that's been previously established, or, like in the original version of Mystic Hills, have Mania not Mania's the main character, incidentally, not know the information anything about
her name
one
is
of Mystics.
I heard that her last name is Soul from you on the stream, so it's quite odd. The twist that she's a Soul Seer is quite obvious.
Okay, yes, and
It's
That is
literally a
true.
slap to the face.
Yeah, and here's the thing: when you watch the original version, you don't know what a soul eater is, so you don't know that there's going to be a twist to do with that. So even if you have the information that her last name is Mania Soul, which is in the description of the first episode of the original, it doesn't matter because you don't have all of those pieces.
Like, we don't have all of the pieces, but in, like, the new Redux, it's practically spelled out for us. The writing
A
is
lot of the
quite
time,
literally on the wall.
a lot of the time, exposition is brought about not even just in an unconvincing way, but also in bulk. And that's just to bring the audience up to speed, being like, I want everyone to know this information going in, and then so I'm just going to quickly sneeze it out to everyone, and then we'll move on.
Like,
It's also
if
like, I guess I
anything,
want to build up all the rules of
like,
this world so that there's no surprises anymore.
if
Case in
anything,
point,
like,
Fallen.
Fallen Angels. If anything, people don't just sneeze out exposition. It's more like like, sometimes it's like they're vomiting exposition at you. Too much. Too
Yes.
much.
Yeah, okay, yes. Insert your preferred, involuntary exhalation of of chemicals or whatever that you prefer. Either way it works. Yeah. So with Fallen Angels, the reason I bring that up is because Aiden was actually very upfront with me during the writing process of that part of the mission of Fallen Angels was to establish all of the rules immediately just to get them. And granted, he doesn't do that like in the first episode or anything. There's a little bit of that, but not so much. It's mostly like it's spread out throughout the first season just to make sure that everyone's up to speed. Even though later on in season 2, more like newer concepts are introduced, because surprise, surprise, the more that you work on a particular story, the more that you come up with ideas, unless you get burnt out, but whatever. The more you come up with ideas, so having all the answers right away, or trying to get those out, is never actually going to work, because you'll always end up having more. Unless you want to ignore those ideas, in which case you'll probably end up getting burnt out just from restricting yourself and your own creativity. But yeah, that's why you get a lot of conversations in Fallen Angels, particularly where there's a whole scene dedicated to Adam explaining all of the not even explaining, just listing all of the powers that angels have, and to Alana with no particular visuals or anything. It's just the two of them having a conversation. I'm all having conversation. Sure, why not? But if it and the underlying part of that scene is because Helen has planted suspicion in Alana's mind about Adam because he hasn't divulged all of his powers yet. So in that regard, yes, it makes sense. But to be honest, that could have just been that was extra motivation that I was trying to put in during writing when realizing, okay, if this is just to list all the powers, then we need something else for people to focus on, or at least have some emotional component to this, because most of those powers don't even get brought up in the series. Like, I don't recall memory manipulation being used at any point by any of the angels apart from Kurt in the example where we find out that it's possible, which prompts the discussion in the first place. For example, self-healing is just a plot hole, but not really a plot hole, really. It's just one of those things where it's like, well, if they can self-heal, that's where the whole why does Zach have a band-aid on his face thing come in, because if he can just close up his wounds naturally, why would he need to prevent infection? In fact, why is he worried about wounds getting infected if he's not vulnerable to diseases? Because
why does he worry about wounds at all?
there is that. Yeah. So So in a few examples, the exposition can come back to bite you as well. So sometimes leaving things intentionally vague actually can really help. Like
Like,
with Witch
as
Academy, I go back and forth in my mind about whether Erica's parents are alive or not. So I've left it saying like something has happened to them, and clearly there's tragedy involved. But until I make a decision in my head as to what's going on, they can either be dead or alive. They're up to the audience's interpretation. Letting them do a bit of the work does also help a lot. Makes them feel more involved.
yes, Schrodinger's parents.
Well, yeah, they are shrouded, but they're not as shrouded. They're not as filtered as the sister is. So that they perhaps succumb to a different fate. That's again
The
posing some
sister who
questions.
is totally not dead.
Yeah, in the server there was someone like announced Erica's sister definitely dead. Yeah, so depending on whether or not I want to be that cliche, in that show, which will be decided later. Either option works, and in fact, part of the mystery that being revealed later on will hopefully keep people engaged while I work on the other projects that don't get sidelined for 2 entire years. One can only hope.
One can only hope.
Yeah, I haven't done an Alpha Academy episode since 2021. It's one thing I need to get back into.
Like, you haven't done an Alpha Witch Academy, and this is my first, my second day actually editing Monster Compendium. Because, like, for the first, good amount of days of production, I was actually focused on making the assets.
I mean, yeah, there's that. And you could also say, days of production would include the scripting phase and everything. So it has been in the works for quite some time. And in fact, you've been leaving like right after streams and stuff to go work on Monster Compendium, which I assume would mean the building of the assets and everything.
Yeah, the building of the assets. For instance, the entire bedroom.
Yep.
The entire bedroom is a custom asset. Also, that blanket pile. Aiden loves it. He thinks it's hilarious.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Again, he looks like a gremlin, and that really adds to him.
Like, I'd like to say, under that blanket pile is a version of Ulrich that has no arms.
Yeah.
He is just leg and torso and head.
Yeah. Wait. Actually, can you show that? Can you mute tracks on your editing software?
Yes, of course. But I think the version of Ulrich right now on screen that I just switched to has arms. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
So it's like a bit
Like,
further back.
I can hide different parts. Oh wait, the version. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Under the blanket
arms,
pile,
yeah.
you can actually, you can actually see the detached arm. Like, I think, you can also see the pillow. This is the funny thing about editing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes you, moving around different parts, it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's the thing with the illusion of animation. Back in like the 1920s and 30s or 1910s, really, people thought that animation was really scary. And I guess if they saw severed hands in the middle of pre-production, the hand-drawn versions, yeah, I'd be pretty terrified too. Like, honestly, especially if I was not accustomed to it.
Like, you should see this. It's the slow motion of the pillow hitting the alarm clock.
Yeah, which of course is being thrown by the hand in the actual visual, but you don't need to do that if it's just under the cover. You just need to move the pillow. So it does also come from being able to save time.
Also, this expression right here.
Yeah, that's a little bit more obscured from by the blanket when it's actually there.
Like,
yeah, they don't call it the illusion of animation for no reason. That's what I'll say about that.
Hold on. Let me reactivate these pods for a second.
Yeah.
Like, if you look, this actual face is obscured, but if you he's supposed to be scared by the suddenness of the alarm clock.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, it goes off so suddenly. He can't reach it. How does one shut off alarm? Boop.
Of course.
I think it's hilarious. Just a gremlin.
Absolutely. I kind of imagined that when I was doing the voice lines for this, where it's just like, of course, this is the ephemeral minutes bit. That is exactly how Afmal delivers her first one of her first
Yeah,
lines in Face Jump High.
I actually ended up using that one.
Yeah.
Now, back to exposition.
Hmm.
How does one make exposition feel natural? Really?
For me, it comes down to a bit of an instinct. If it feels like if you listen, well, I guess if you read it back, if you're scripting, but if you listen back to something when you're just watching it and you feel like that's just being told because the audience don't know it, if the character should already have done this before, or also if it's just being like rehashed. Since we bring up Afmal, that's an issue that prevails in a lot of my streets. And
Yeah, my street is just a big old cake of exposition.
yeah, I think there was a time period sometime from like seasons 3 to 5 where it was very apparent to me at least. But but yeah, it does keep coming up. And on one hand, you think, okay, well, in TV shows they do a lot of recapping. That even like after certain ad breaks and stuff. If you go to like Avatar: The Last Airbender, for example, one thing that Overanalyzing Avatar, the channel, pointed out was that Sokka a lot of the time has a bunch of lines where he's just repeating what someone just said right before the ad break, but he's saying it like he's like incredulous. He just heard the information. The audience like, oh, okay, that's what just happened. But even one episode to another, that's the reason that we get recaps verbally, but also even if you take it one step further, clip shows as well. Apart from, I guess, if they cut down your budget and you have to recycle animation, there's that issue too. Or you have a season order to
For
meet.
instance, Alu Code Lyoko. The final episode is just one big recap of the series thus far, which I actually think is one of the better recap episodes in television. It's a
Well, see,
needful
the thing with
recap.
that one is that
It feels like it has purpose.
yeah, the thing with that one is that they let the emotions of like what's gone on resonate with the cats. They don't just explain what they've gone through again. They don't narrate over it. They just show some of the some of the combat moments, some of the romance moments, and a bunch of other things like that. So yeah, it's done visually, and that does soften the blow a lot of the time. In fact, even in Mystic Hills recreation yesterday, we said that the best exposition thing that was in there, not that was a high bar, but the best one out of all of those was the one that had a flashback to actually go over the top of it. We even get to see things that aren't fully explained to us yet, like the different versions of the mystics themselves. So I think when it adds to a bit, when you add a visual component to it, and also I guess don't oversell it. But either way, if the reason I say it's about an instinct is it's just, I guess it's like as if you're writing it out, if you put yourself into the mindset of the character that you're trying to talk to, or the character that are in the scene, if either of them would know this already or wouldn't need it as laid out as it is, because sometimes people know partial information and they're being filled in on the stuff that they don't, and that's why, and the audience kind of does a little bit of like the thinking and catching up. A lot of people feel like that would disillusion people to not be in the know about everything, but a lot of the time I find the mystery intrigues people and entices them to keep watching. Oh, actually, wait, hold on. I was saying a thing about TV shows and stuff after talking about AFMAL. Yeah, the reason it's not so needed in online shows is because people can very easily go back and check for
Binge.
the other episodes. In
They
fact,
could,
yes, in
that,
fact,
and they can easily binge the entire thing.
yeah, for free. But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, in fact, that's where a lot of the marketing for online shows comes from. Yeah, people going back and watching them over and over again, even when new releases come out. In fact, that's probably why a lot of things that have massive gaps in their uploads still if they have a fan base already, they can actually retain those people, and they don't have to be like, oh, well, this is what happened when the last episode came out 1 or 2 years ago. And with AFMAL, that wasn't even an issue because the episodes came out very quickly one after another. And the people who were like, well, I'm so confused by episode 23 of season 3 of this series. Well, I guess I can't really engage with this. Like, no, if they like what they're seeing, if they like the characters, if they like what's being presented visually to them, and they're enjoying themselves, they're most likely going to check out the other stuff. So giving them something to answer. In fact, I would probably say that's one of the best strategies that soap operas actually are able to deal with. They have their episode recaps, they have their unanswered questions at the end of episodes, and then you find yourself tuning back in one after another, and they run for 60 years. That's just that's the way that it goes. So I think, yeah, having like not overdoing it, and also making sure that it doesn't feel like it's just being done for the audience. If a character doesn't know some information, then yeah, by all means, let them know. I will add one proviso to that. If a character doesn't know information and the audience does, like we've learnt this beforehand, but one character who has been in the dark up until now hasn't been in the loop, or is to find out that at some particular point, most of the time you can just skip over that. You don't need to explain yet again what has happened. You can just be like, cut the scene for a bit, and the character be like, "Oh, so that's what happened."
Also, like, is a thing for me, like, my approach to exposition is that, like, people's brains will naturally fill in the gaps to information. So if you are intentionally obscuring something, people will eventually fill in the blanks. That's where theories come in.
And headcanons. And in a few cases, fan fictions.
AFMO has a lot of fanfiction amended to her brand.
Yep, and my first like big audience boost on YouTube was due to theories that I made about the blanks that AFMAL left. Do I believe like any of them? Not really, no. I mean, a few of them are more plausible in my mind than others, but a lot of the time was like, well, there's no explanation provided here, so I'm just going to say something. Just give some evidence about something else, and then be like, okay, here we go. This is an explanation. You don't have to take it if you don't like it, Aiden, but but why not? Hear me out anyway, or something along those lines. And that's part of the fun. That's one way that fans can engage. I think that's one thing that that the AFMA community doesn't have so much anymore because of the shift in content. I even though there's more people watching now, I don't get the impression that there's as many bits of fan art, theories, character discussions, things like that. And if so, they're done by the people who were there from the beginning and are comparing it to the era of role plays. So that barely counts.
That and I heard that AFMO during her videos nowadays was like dropping lore hints during these videos that are tangentially not related to her past roleplays. Like, I heard that the not Ethan, Ian not being Aphmau's half brother came from here. Like, Ian was supposed to be a red herring, which is something I don't believe. In which case, you should have caught that in the creative pipeline. It exists for a reason. But we're not here to talk about my issues with Ian. Like,
No, we have Liongate for that.
yeah. If anything, I'm here to say one thing. Like, I have an approach to exposition. Okay, you want to tell the audience something the characters already know. Like, I'm gonna bring up Monster Compendium right quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna scroll all the way down. You said when you reviewed the script the first time that this wall of text right here is common knowledge for the characters in the world. Because, bunny people, dog people, this is
Yeah.
common knowledge for the characters, but it's being contextualized and restated by the stuff that came before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little more forgivable.
I tell you one thing. One way, because when you told me about this, I thought, well, some of the time there's some iconic bits of opening narration from a few, again, going back to TV shows and stuff. You could use the very famous Avatar example again, but also stuff like Samurai Jack, the first episode of My Hero Academia, things like that. And maybe that's a bit more understandable, especially when it's framed in a way that becomes iconic to repeat a lot and enters a person's nostalgia. But yeah, when it is something that is common knowledge that's like introduced in the middle of it and it's like part of the episode and stuff, that's when it feels that's when it feels like it should not be stated in the exact same way.
That's when it starts to feel a little ham-fisted. Going back to Mystic Hills, it's basically a history lesson with extra steps.
I mean,
the rest of the episode only matters a little in the context.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically reading out the prologue pages to us while we sit there like, ugh, not this, please, no, don't. We've already heard it, stop.
The sad part is we were already sufficiently intrigued by the premise just based on the opening scene alone. I mean, BB, who has not watched any Mystic Hills apart from that recreation episode, as a new viewer, was enticed by just the scene with Duke being pursued by the wolves. And yeah, that one has a little bit of things like there's like, I will never let you go through the portal again, that you are trying to achieve, they're trying to surpass me in order to actually achieve that. People are going to actually people get hurt by this. Oh, I will do so no matter how many innocents I hurt, because our bloodline is dying and stuff like that. Maybe at that point it gets it's a little much, but of course the issues come in later. If that was all that there was in there, you think, okay, that was a little bit forced. But then you get to the scene of the, as I have already said, which is probably, now I think about it, probably even worse than As You Know, because that means the characters repeating themselves for basically no reason. But yeah, you get the As I Have Said, which is like which is said twice in the next scene alone, and then like once again at the end, right after Duke has just met two new characters, meaning he's repeating himself to the two new characters immediately afterwards. Yeah.
Meanwhile, William in the chat, here's a simple answer: don't.
Okay.
Listen, we could not, but exposition is actually a very useful tool if done correctly. Like, yeah, exposition isn't appealing. Sometimes it can be very poorly done.
A lot of the time, it actually comes in during the second act as well. That's usually where the exposition goes, which means by this point we already have the characters. We already have we've already had a little bit of time in the world. We've had other stuff that's been set up. I guess the original Mystic Hills, because it happens sometime during the middle portion of the original series, and yeah, that is a good place to put it, because there's been a few bits of mystery beforehand. and suddenly those have into context. What happens now? What happens now becomes the of it. Whereas you skipped that entire process by putting that way too soon. So if you do have to have a wall of text like the one that I guess was represented there, I'll have it after a little bit after, because have it after, I guess, Ulrich discovers the book. Because that will feel a little bit better at the very least.
Like, Ulrich finding the monster compendium is supposed to be inciting incident. Or one of a handful of inciting incidents that Ulrich will skillfully dodge. Kind of like a ninja fresh out of clown school.
I mean, which is part of the hero's journey of storytelling anyway, the refusal of the call.
Yeah, like, to be honest, his dad wants to protect him, but he really wants to do it. Like, he feels, once he actually gets to fighting, he's going to feel like, oh, it's my duty, it's my destiny, but it's not his destiny. It was somebody else's destiny before him. He's just saddled with it now.
I shall become a Jedi like my father before me.
Well, no, your brother before you was supposed to become the Jedi, like... Stop. Your brother before you was supposed to become the Jedi like your father before you. But unfortunately, that guy got into a little bit of a werewolf accident, so now it's your job.
Yeah.
Congratulations!
There's a couple of werewolves, they're up to no good, started causing trouble in the neighborhood. I got in one little fight, and that was it. That was the last thing I did. Imagine it was just like the story of Ulrich's brother. I got in one little fight.
Like, to be honest, it is common knowledge that when you see a werewolf out under a full moon, you're supposed to run.
I feel like, yeah, even if you don't even explain that in the show ever, I feel like it's like, oh dear, this very aggressive looking beast, run. Everyone has like a human reaction to that kind of thing anyway, because we're evolved to sense danger. So yeah, why not? It doesn't matter. We're gonna be scared, so yeah, play into the scariness.
Yeah, like, I was actually, like, working on, like, something for that, but then I realized, oh, I should probably get the pilot episode out before I start making supplementary material.
Yeah, that would be good. Yes, I do agree.
Like, I like how, the delivery of the line when we realize that Ulrich's brother is sort of not in play in the main series. It's sort of alluded to, but not outright stated.
Which, again, is the best way to do those things, especially when you have so much to get through already in the first episode.
Nice. Yeah, it is. That is the way, because you're more like touching upon it rather than, just spitting it onto your audience.
Yeah. In fact,
You
sometimes...
don't need to...
No, go on.
I don't need to tell you a 3-sentence to tell you a 5-sentence paragraph on how dead Ulrich's brother is.
As you know, Ulrich, your brother is dead, and that book is the reason why.
No!
Actually, to be fair, like, now I bring up the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's another example of a very iconic, like, it is opening narration. It's setting you back into like how the series began. I guess again, if you do it in a fun way. Now that I think about it, one time I was in a play, and my job, obviously, I was the narrator character. Well, I was playing Kronos, but my function was that I was narrating all of the myths and filling in some of the blanks. But in order to make that not boring, what I did was I was actually allowed to write my own dialogue by the director, and I made everything in rhyme. And that at least, gives a focus, because rhyme is very satisfying to hear, no matter who you are, especially if it's done really well. And you're more likely to remember it that way. So especially if you have a lot of information to get across, it won't be lost in the ether, and you can just get back to the action, get back to the really important stuff.
Yeah, like the only thing about exposition that I don't understand is when you absolutely need to like pull a Mystic Hills or a Monster Compendium and explain history and have it feel natural. Like, I was thinking about Mystic Hills and I was like, unlike the first episode of Monster Compendium, they literally go to school.
Yeah, they go to a place where you're learning things.
Yes. If anything, that is the perfect location for wordy exposition.
Yeah, definitely. May, if you're watching this, Mr. Butter can help explain mystics to people. Mystic history or whatever. Mystic history
Like-
equals mystery.
Mystery. But it's like, yeah, like one thing I loved and hated about Mystic Hills, but also thought was kind of funny, is the one guy that can transform into cats
Yeah.
came into the house and started just vomiting exposition onto these lads.
Yeah. But let alone
Like,
the
I
fact
must
that
explain to you the law of everything right here, right now in your house.
But
Let
how
me
did you track
wheel
us
in the
down?
chalkboard right quick.
How'd you track us
Let
down?
me-
Never mind that. As I have already said, you two are murderers.
Like, for instance, kiddos, I need to teach you some history. Let me wheel in this chalkboard right quick.
Okay, but first of all, who are you? How do you find our house, and why are you here?
I have a mistress. I'm going to kill her. Okay, then I'm not going to tell you who she is.
Yeah, which was a relief, because that's the one thing that he didn't tell them explicitly in the episode.
He also didn't tell them his name or anything. He just came in their house, started expositing to them, and just left. It was like, what?
Oh, I'm just picturing, the opening, the
That
first,
would be like if
the first
would be
chapter of
like
the
if
Philosopher's
somebody
Stone, where Vernon like sees Professor McGonagall as a cat reading a sign and thinks that that's weird, and then it's revealed later that it was human. Imagine if Professor McGonagall just leapt down from the wall and just transformed in front of Uncle Vernon, and were just like, "Let me tell you everything you need to know."
let me tell you everything you need to know about wizards and magic. You might want to sit down on that couch right there because it's a lot of information.
Oh, that's another thing. The characters, like, during the flashback, they went to sit down because that was how long it took. That's actually what happens.
They had to sit down
Mhm.
because of all of the.
It seems to be a weird thing with
It's
remakes
funny,
as well.
but it's funny, but it's also painful.
Yeah.
It's a painful
mean-
amount of exposition all at once.
Mm-hmm. I see that seems to be an issue with remakes, not just with Mystic Hills. Now that I think about it, there's other examples of remakes that, because people have seen the original version already, sometimes they feel like let's just not try as hard with that. But because obviously Mystic Hills, it's a recent example, so it's fresh in our minds. But there is definitely an example that we're both aware of that is far, far worse than anything else that we have talked about
Adam
at
Code
this point.
Purple.
Yes, you got it. Adam Code Purple and Adam Code Purple Remastered.
Ah,
The
yes. Hello, random stranger I've only met a few times before in the hospital. Let me exposit to you about demons.
Yeah, see that. Yeah, but I'm thinking of like the first thing that happens in both versions of Adam filling us in with his backstory.
Ah,
Gacha
yes.
narration tends to be somewhat. It tends to go either from like onto the painful side of things, or it tends to be that it's just like, oh, hi, I'm CJ Hernandez. I'm 16 years old. Oh, I'm 17 years old, and here's what happened when I was 16. I'm on my way to school, and this is what's about to happen. And you know what? That part was probably the best part of Bad Girls Little Boy, considering everything else that happens. But in the case of Adam Code Purple, in the original one, he kind of had an excuse. He had the excuse of talking to a therapist, and we had a few visuals to go along with it. That in the remastered version, he doesn't have any of that. We don't even have visuals. We just have the 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes. I don't remember anymore of just going through the story, being like, well, whatever. We'll get to it later. Here's everything that you need to know beforehand, with no surprises whatsoever. Oh Lord. So yeah, that one.
Casual news.
Oh, of course, because you saved the clips, yeah. I don't think people can hear it.
You're right. I need to do some
Also,
things.
yeah, I'm not referring to the casual news scene. I'm referring to like the very beginning.
Oh yeah.
I mean, usually characters hang themselves like at the end of episode 1s of gacha shows, but yeah.
Like that was the end of episode 1. Sort of the
case in
end.
point.
Sebastian, who I thought was a guy at first, apparently a girl. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Had to come to Adam in his dying state and be like, "Oh, hello, lad. Would you like some magic powers? You have a great destiny fortuned on you. Here, take some magic."
Yeah, that was. In fact, that was another bit of exposition there, I guess, because then Sebastian had to go into a speech. But then again, that was the part that Adam didn't know.
The audience
about
didn't know
the
it
rest of his
either.
destiny. Yeah, that part just kind of goes into the part I was saying about long-winded explanations and leaving it in terms of mystery, rather than it just being a case of they know this information anyway. There's like the two main things with exposition, and it becomes really painful when both of them combine, like with Mystic Hills recreation, like with Adam Code Purple remastered. There's all that. Then again, I guess remakes also have a bit of a crutch that everything that they end up saying for the original audience will become an as you know, but that is somewhat unavoidable.
Yeah, you are literally just like remaking an original episode of a thing you made before, but you're making it slightly better now. So the viewing experience is slightly less like a raccoon being put through a trash compactor.
Mm-hmm. This is why for my remakes, I don't change the script. The only new thing that I ever added into any of the Muse and Go remakes was literally a deleted scene from the original. So it was technically part of it always.
Wait a second. I think I have a thing in here. Let me see if I can find it. Pain 3 season finale. I think this is. Yeah, I named all of them Pain.
No, I remember that. Yeah.
Like, I think it was the start.
Yeah, because we watched them in the weird order because Josh kept on telling us there was like a different thing. So Adam Kabubber Master was like towards the beginning.
Like, I remember, like, I was having a mental breakdown over the opening. There we go. Didn't see this coming.
No, of course not.
Wait a second. I think I can play this right quick. Me having a mental breakdown over Pain.
Mm-hmm. Oh, BB is in the chat. The difference is that with the Mutant Girl, in a decent story and terrible visual quality, most people have consider this as having both issues, hence the script changes. Okay, yeah, that is true. If you're not happy with the story that you told before, then yeah, I guess that's fair. It just becomes way less fortunate when people try to improve their stories beforehand and they shoot themselves in the foot by doing so. If anything, honestly, just trust that the modifications that you've made to the story are going to present themselves as new. My Street Episode 1 remake is an okay example of that, I'll say. Because there comes of a few issues based on the fact that the introduction of Zane happens one episode too soon. And how that ends up that now when you watch that episode and then continue to watch the rest of season 1, you see Zane introducing himself for the second time. I mean, not like any My Street characters have ever forgotten that others existed and have to introduce themselves over again. That's of course not been an issue ever present in the series, particularly season 1.
Me
But
looks at season 1, looks at, the prequels. Ah, yeah, I could do without you. Please get out of my life.
yeah, I watched Phoenix Drop High before learning that My Street itself was a series. I didn't know that it was a prequel when I first saw it. I thought it was like his own thing. And then when I found season 1 of My Street, I was like, oh great, Travis is back. Why is he introducing himself? Okay. Okay, but back to the remake. So with that remake, you have a few new script changes that aren't the Zane thing. You also have Aaron becoming a much bigger thing, which was a serious critique that people had. You have the box of chocolates coming back in, and actually, I'm surprised that Aphmau showed enough restraint not to have Aaron hesitate about eating chocolates, and that be left as it was. Some of it was actually word for words, but other stuff was just replacing the production issues again. But even despite that, some people might prefer a few of the different things where it's like, oh, well, we're just going to go through the kitchen. We're not going to tour around the whole room. Here's the kitchen, the bathroom, the outside. And how could we not mention the shipping shrine and Kawaii-chan's sacrifice of poor Poster Senpai? Whether you like that change or not, it is definitely something that makes that version of the story stand out a lot more. And then, of course, there's the offhand lines about, Aaron knowing what Aphmau has on her laptop and why it's so important to get out the moving van before anything else, and Aphmau blushing as a result of it. It's probably just fan fictions on there, but, considering one of people's fanfic history, yeah, I can understand the embarrassment now. Apple didn't realize the prequel was designed to explain past events, not rewrite them. Oh, okay. If you're referring to Phoenix Drop High, then yes. That could have been part of the issue. Although considering that I watched Phoenix Drop High before knowing season 1 was a thing, it actually didn't feel like it needed to be like oh well, I hope I don't become roommates with you in the future or something until like a mini game several years down the line. It didn't foreshadow too much of what happened in season 1, which I guess shows that Aphmau at least had a bit more faith in her audience at that point, not to rely on, I guess, exposition to
Also,
fill that in.
speaking of that, I think I know why My Street season 1 is the way it is. Definitively,
What made you
My Street season 1 has a lot of leftovers, especially from Minecraft Diaries. Ow.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I forgot to mention that's another script change that happens because you take out a few of the references to the diary stuff that I guess if the remakes had continued, you wouldn't have Dante saying, "Oh, well, I did wait 15 years for her to come back and stuff," or a few references to, I guess, Garth would not transform into his Jury of 9 form, and Aiden would be free of his heart attack whenever I mentioned that to him. So yeah, there wasn't as much of a clear identity at that point. But the thing is, yeah, that's when he happens to be like rewriting with prequels. But that's a whole other issue. We could have a whole other stream just based on retcons alone, I think. That might be the next one of these if you want to do more of these.
Like, yeah, probably. Like, speaking of that, I know why My Street in general might have been written. My Street is essentially a product of Minecraft Diaries. I remember while Minecraft Diaries was being produced, Aphmau often made side stories, especially while
Yes.
Minecraft Diaries was having a darker tone fluctuation. So essentially, when Aphmau was done writing the dark, edgy stuff, she would want to produce something with a lighter tone and feel. Essentially, My Street was supposed to be that, but on a larger scale. So it has a lot of leftovers from Diaries, not as a story decision, but as a production decision.
So what you're saying is that Aphmau went from having light-hearted diaries to a darker tone, then did My Street, which started off light and then at a darker tone, and now after having been done with role plays, has gone back to the light stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting. She just gets tired of one and does the other for a bit, like back and forth.
It's a ping pong table. It's maddening.
Feels like that era of My Street coming out at the same time as Diaries actually was probably a good time for her then, considering she got to do both.
Like, and then she just dropped Diaries without a conclusion onto her secondary channel. She literally Disney XD'd herself.
Oh, I guess since we bring that up, I've got another example of bad exposition, which doesn't come as a thing with characters not knowing stuff. It comes with the audience it goes back to the spoon feeding the audience kind of thing and replacing something that could have been seen rather than just told. Again, show don't tell, the thing we've all heard with storytelling countless times. And that example, of course, is the one and only Taming the Bad Boy.
Like, I never got the opportunity to watch Taming the Bad Boy. How bad was it? Nah, not yet. I wanted to get around to it, but with starting serious production on Monster Compendium and a lot of other factors, I haven't had the opportunity to watch through those.
Okay.
That, and I heard it was really bad.
I mean, that's the thing. Yes, it was really bad, but it was enjoyably bad. That might have been because we were like humiliating the creator right in front of us every time, and that's what made the reviews so funny in the first place. There were a few scenes where it was legitimately hard to get through. Especially, I guess you could say, like, episodes 3 and 12 are the worst offenders for that. But even like in the other ones, like episode 1, it doesn't really end so much as stops. I do appreciate how it actually inspired me then to try abruptly starting a new episode like right after the preview. But yeah, regardless of that, yeah, that like that. I guess the fun parts were definitely the retrospective and the cringing about that. Which actually, to be honest, that might be why one of my favorite gacha tubers nowadays is Beowulf. Because yeah, she's definitely gone through that cringy gacha phase and has come out all the more entertaining as a result of it. But yeah, for Sammy the Bad Boy, the reason I bring it up for exposition purposes is because even if we didn't enjoy the series fully, loads and loads and loads and loads of people did. And I can't help but think that they were somewhat cheated out of a good finale. Because the last episode is nothing but Mimi's OC character. I've got about to say Mimi now. That's been a while. Shorty's OC character coming in and just narrating a where they are now section. And that's it. There's nothing else in that episode. You know, it's who went on to do what, how the relationships ended up not going the way they're expecting. It was essentially like the ending of Phoenix Drop Days, but if that had been just rushed and exposited to us rather than
Shown
watching
to
us
us.
witness the decline. Yeah. At the very least, with Phoenix Drop Days, we had enough time to soften the blow of how it was going to like all conclude. But you know, especially for a finale, like unless you're going for an anti-climax, which I don't think Shorty was originally, that really was not the way to do it. Oh, hold on. So, yeah. So in the chat, BB saying Ted Bad Boy had the non-consensual elements, which were a heavy black mark on that series. I didn't even realize the characters were 18 plus until Shorty told me years later. Yeah, I actually asked Shorty during my first ever gacha review that I ever did how old Yuki was, and the answer was 18. So it's like, okay, all right. I mean, he looks 10, but we'll suspend disbelief for now, I guess. But so I guess again, without a lot of the information, without the background knowledge, I feel like which I guess means that Terry Babbitt could have done with a bit more explanation in a way, but as it was transpiring, a little bit more of like, okay, let's fill in the really important details, like, you know, what type of school this is, why exactly they're like sharing rooms and stuff. It just becomes difficult because a lot of the times with reviews, I end up asking a bunch of questions because usually it's about questions about things that either don't make sense or won't make sense without something being explained to them. Exposition can help there, but I think that's where it needs just a few short bursts. Read a whole paragraph about, I guess, this is a school for alphas and omegas, and they all share rooms and stuff, and it was decided beforehand, and that's how they happen to know each other. Like, no, that's not true, by the way. I just made that up right now. The school is not for alphas and omegas, to my knowledge. But you get my point. When it's stuff that people need to avoid being confused entirely about everything, not having the full picture is fine, but not having any picture means that there's nothing to appreciate. That's the difference, I think.
Like, speaking of AFMAO and exposition, let's talk about another solid gold painted elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Lion Gate.
Oh, okay, yes.
What? It doesn't make sense, but when it does make sense, it's pretty dull, right? It's not good, but it's watchable.
Well, I mean, yeah, you've watched way more of Lion Gate than I have, but from what I've seen so far,
the first episode is quite literally the best episode.
Oh
there is
God,
a
is that as far as I've wait? No, I've got to like the second one, I think.
if you watched the second one without me, how
Oh,
dare?
maybe I haven't. Maybe I have just only watched the first episode so far.
But I will say ahead of time that
Oh
there is an episode of
no.
Lionsgate. But I will say ahead of time there is an episode of Liongate, that is just exposition. It is just exposition.
Hmm.
Ian. Essentially,
Yeah.
Duggan made a whole episode to
Yeah.
explain
Oh,
why
you
Ian
talked about that
is,
scene.
here and alive. Like, I've
Yeah.
talked about that scene
You've
mostly because there's an ad break in the music,
yeah.
and it
Oh,
makes
that's why,
me
because I saw that video.
angry. It makes me so
Mhm.
angry, and this happens more than once in the series. This happens
Yeah,
more
just
than
couldn't even bother
once.
to like re-record or do a second take, or at the very least chop that out in the YouTube editor if nothing else. That series is clearly edited and it has post-production, so it's like it has the option.
A whole episode of exposition. A whole episode of exposition that isn't the first episode. No, it's the third.
Yeah, and
Like-
Return of Bad Boy was the last. It was the 13th, so no excuse
Like-
there.
Ian literally pulls someone I don't remember aside. I think it's Melissa. Ian literally pulls Melissa aside and is like, "Hey, kid, you want to know how I'm alive and here right now in the human
You
world?"
and nobody else. Would you and nobody else who might be curious want to know why I'm alive? I mean, doesn't he have a whole bromance with Gareth at that point? Like, tell it to Gareth. They didn't even pick the right character to expose it to. That's how bad that show is.
Like, if anything, he's expositing towards the character who cares the least about his existence in that current moment.
Yeah.
Because
might be
Melissa.
a bit annoyed about the fact that he came back to life considering what he did to basically everyone, including her own brother. But then again, who's meant to talk about magic coming back to life? So whatever.
Like, I remember distinctly, there is a point in a single episode where Caitlin looks at a street magician, somebody doing like someone doing like magic tricks, like card tricks and such, and being like, magic isn't real. What?
Yeah. So when you're doing an adaptation of something and you have exposition, make sure you're not lying out of your teeth. I didn't think we were going to get to this point in the video where I have to say that, but yes, don't do that ever.
And then, like, during the first episode of Liongate, Kawaii-chan is talking to Zane about how the last vacation, spoilers for When Angels Fall, I guess. Kawaii-chan is talking to Zane about how the last vacation was horrible and tragic. Almost a couple of weeks to a month after the last vacation.
When
Like,
exposition directly contradicts character motivation as well, that's another thing where it's just like at that point I have to rework the entire script, not just the exposition part. Like that's when everything needs to just be like, okay, what am I doing here?
Like, if anything, I just re-pick up Liongate and write it myself, but I have my own garbage going on. As they say, not my zoo, not my monkeys.
I feel like you could do a good video of just like a one-off being like, okay, well this is my version of the script. This is how I would fix it if I were going to make that, and then just just narrate it. And yeah, that's not exposition. That's just different medium because that's how analysis works. I thought it was on my end for a second there. I forgot I'm on full screen. I thought it was my battery running out.
Like, one thing.
Oh wait, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
Like, I was about to say one thing.
Never mind.
One thing I really have to say is have them go to like a ski resort or something. Just a different kind of resort. Because have them going to a beach resort after they got traumatized at a beach resort is probably not the best idea.
Definitely not.
Like, Melissa could be like, hey, the last resort at the beach was traumatizing, so we're going to the icy cold mountains. Yep, nothing out here but cold weather and werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we could still have the, like, kidnapping ex-girlfriend plotline. We could still have that. But just put it somewhere else. And then there's the point in Lion Gate where spoilers for Lion Gate, but I don't think any of you care, except for maybe Jacob who's reviewing it. But they leave the resort
Yeah.
at one point, and the rest of the season is still called Lion Gate Resort, even though the resort is not
Oh
even a
yeah, I
thing
remember this part.
anymore. Like, at that point, just announce a new season and change the name. We're not at the
Yeah, this
resort
thing,
anymore, guys.
yeah, if your series title or season title at the very least is related to the setting, and you change the setting, you probably should change the title too. It's kind of like I guess, I mean, it's kind of like if Riverdale wasn't set in Riverdale, or Mystic Hills was not set in Mystic Hills, or Phoenix Drop High didn't take place in Phoenix Drop High. That's kind of the reason that you use those names in the first place, isn't it? I would have thought so anyway. I guess the same would apply to spin-off names as well. Because we don't name them after the main character.
Listen, speaking of, that is one of on top of my many problems with Lion Gate. It's like the main character, like the main characters are sidelined personality wise, and like the OCs are better written. Oh no, I didn't forget that. I didn't forget that one moment in episode 2 where the Mifa siblings bump into Aaron and Aphmau and exposit about their family history to them. A couple of random
Okay, then I
strangers they
have seen
just
episode
suddenly
2.
met.
I have seen episode 2 then, because I remember reviewing this part.
Yeah, I think 1 and 2. Like, what do you think about that moment, Jacob?
Well, I've already said my piece about that moment and how it was just, and how that is just not something that anyone would do. I feel like, again, characters giving. We should point that out as well. It's not just about the characters receiving the exposition; it's all about the people giving it to them. If it's out of character for them to just be like divulging this random information, that's another issue with exposition altogether. That's why Forrest Gump gets a pass for most people, because obviously he has no reason to be talking about his entire life story whilst just sitting at a bus stop. And in fact, but the thing is that they point that out. They have a bunch of people where the people coming in and just being like super invested in this particular story. Like one point, someone like misses their bus just because they're like so invested in this guy's life. And then a few of them like ask questions, they get involved, and that's just the format. And also, it's not out of character for Forrest to do that because he just doesn't have any sense of privacy, really. And fortunately, has the innocence to justify that on top of it. But then somebody being like, as you know, I conducted a raid on the Great Library, which most that didn't exist, just out of the blue nowhere. Yeah, like that's why. Why at all would you even be saying that? And why would this character? I mean, Why this character who already knows the information needs to hear it again. I had to bring up the Last Airbender movie at least once because that's the example everyone thinks of when they hear the words "as you know."
As you know, when I conducted a raid on the Great Library.
Which most said didn't even exist.
Like, I
What?
should have gotten a refund, Jacob. I'm so mad. Like, I saw that movie in theaters.
I did too. That was my first exposure to the Avatar franchise in general.
Listen, I'm sorry.
In fact, I
I'm
didn't
sorry.
actually watch the series for the first time until like 8 years after that movie.
Listen, if that was your if that was your first introduction to the franchise, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's another where exposition ends up replacing emotion. That entire movie, actually, now that I think about it, there's again going back to Sokka again, or I guess Soka as he's called in the movie. His whole friendship with Yue just ends up being like, my brother and the princess became friends right away. What more do you want other than that? Next conversation where they talk about Princess Yue's backstory, which becomes plot relevant later. Of course.
Like, it would have been great if we could have seen them getting closer as a pair.
Mm-hmm. One of the best nostalgia critic reviews definitely is the review of the Last Airbender movie, where once a classic meltdown, but it is all to do with again another example of just having stuff being explained, exposited. Was when Aang, or again different pronunciation, Ang, sees the statues of all the past avatars. Like the weight of who he is should hit him in that moment. Yeah, and yet he's kept at a distance after the shot of the statues themselves, and all that we hear is him talking about the story of how he was chosen to be an avatar and like how he chose the same toys and stuff, and it's just talking to the monk who ends up betraying him at the end of that scene. There's no moment to relax and feel like, oh, this is who I am now. Now I get it finally. And even like the Monk Gyatso scene, where it's just like, oh, Monk Gyatso will jump out at any moment. It's kind of like my father, and then they ask him his name right there. Like that wasn't important at the beginning. That information, which is probably the first thing that new people tell themselves all the time, was not as important as getting out story beat after story beat after story beat of an entire season of television into one singular movie.
Like,
I guess people already knew the story. For me, because I was a new viewer, and as a new viewer, that was all I had to go by.
Like, I gotta say, like, a lot of people have done that, but better.
Of course.
Which makes me think, did M. Night Shyamalan actually watch the same series?
Surprisingly, he's actually a really big fan. Maybe it was all to do with like how he tried to compress all of season one, or sorry, book one, and then like that was that was the best that he came up with. I mean, this was ever so slightly like, I think it was like the year before they started splitting up editions of book adaptations into like two parts, like the final installment to get more money. Maybe it was just released before the time it should have been. But there was also the issue of just like cutting down on the character's emotions entirely. According to someone who actually probably knew the kid who played Ang in that version, he was actually the spitting like image and personality of Ang in general. And as he went to like the same martial arts class as that particular person, and but then somehow ended up being like massively toned down. I mean, obviously Soka again, all of his personality is just gone completely. Like what is what is left? He's protective over Katara, and would kill anyone who came to attack her. Great. What does Katara do? Nothing. She pushes a guy. All of the things that they were focused on are just the wrong points in order to try and like include as much as possible. Some things were like done visually, shot for shot, exactly the same as in the animation. But that's basically it.
Like
As
there
I've said many
is
times before, the visuals are fine, but you've got to have the story foundation in order to support them. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
yeah, I think a story writing channel by the name of Hello Future Me did a 2-hour video on the Airbender movie.
Yeah, I've seen that.
If the Airbender movie was your introduction to the series, I promise it's not actually that bad. Give it another shot. Just watch the animated one instead.
Well, oh no, I've seen it in the time since. At one point, I actually just like bought the series on YouTube. So, and I've actually I used to have it there until such a time as YouTube decided to like take away those purchases for some reason. I have no idea why that happened. But yeah, I rewatched it a couple times. In fact, I had a tradition like every year to like every September for a while, just being like, I just had the urge, like, you know what, I'm gonna rewatch Avatar again. Just happened to coincide. So that was a thing at one point. It's not a thing, but so eventually
It's not
that
a
ended
thing
up being
anymore.
course corrected. Yeah. I'll get it at some point because you know that part that one is worth it.
Yeah,
And all it needed was five
like
sentences. 5 sentences of exposition at the beginning of each episode, and they just trusted that everyone else would be able to do the things for them. They even kept it all serialized and didn't have to use. Well, there's a bit of previously on Avatar a few times. Again, visual way to convey that to people who are watching, you know, on live TV. And we're off to the races. You don't need to go over like every bit of detail again. It's just clear that if you're coming into a thing and it says, "Oh yeah, book 2, chapter whatever," that it's not the start, and people get that. They understand. I guess to
they
sum up the whole thing
understand.
about exposition, just don't treat your audience like idiots, and they're
You're
not going to
fine.
call you out for it. Yeah, there you go.
Just don't treat your audience like idiots, and you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this has
Yeah.
been a rather productive chat.
Yeah, I'd say so. It even inspired BB to binge write her version of My Street. Although I personally am still looking for that. Looking forward to that script version of Richwood High. But either way,
Either one will do. Like, by the way, I gotta ask, what are you going to stream today?
well, I was going to do another channel dive into the artist formerly known as Citrus Animations. Because
Ooh.
yeah. Oh wait, actually, hold on a second. Maybe not because I thought that the video that she asked me to review was one that was actually meant to be was one that was going to be sent, but no, the one that was sent was a fan thing for the Music anniversary. So actually, that part's not ready. So I guess I can. I guess I guess I haven't decided that yet. I guess I've got.
We could do episode like 4, 3, and 4 of Lion Gate. That might be fun.
Yeah, sure. All right. Let's do that then.
Deep dive into misery.
Is that what it's called?
No, that's what I call it.
Okay, I'm naming the stream that now.
Deep dive into misery because, like, literally, it's Lion Gate is it's a special kind of beast, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess check out my channel to anyone to see. Actually, wait, all of your people who are here are subscribed to me. Whatever, you know the usual time.
Yeah.
People watching
Yeah,
the
you know
VOD
the
version,
usual
check
time.
out my channel for that video. Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, I hate Lion Gate. I hate it. It's I don't know. It's just so bad. It's so bad. I don't know what it is about Lion Gate, but it's something.
It's the gacha equivalent of the last Airbender movie, where but except it's a sequel. That's the difference. It
Oh
strips away the
no.
personalities, replaces them with stuff that does. It's not as effective. Speed rolls through exposition, and the only difference is that it's trying to at least be a follow up, except that it's not even that.
Like as I've mentioned in the attempted review I tried to make, the OCs that are part of the series have more personality than the main cast.
Which shows that Dogen is probably better suited to original series in the first place, rather than adaptations of anything.
Yeah, but you gotta admit the adaptation does get more views.
Yes, I do admit that, and in fact, yes, I've been recommended to do fandom gacha for years as a direct result of that.
To be honest, you'd also be more suited to original content.
Yeah, but at the very least, I wait before I create with adaptations.
Yeah, but for right now, I'm gonna end this stream here. Didn't get much editing done, but we did have a good conversation.
This is true. We did do that.
This has been fun. I'm probably going to do this again, maybe.
Absolutely. What was it we said we are going to do next time that we talked about? No, it wasn't adaptations. It was something else. Retcons.
Oh yeah, retcons. I have a thing to say about those. I don't like them.
Yep. That's
Like
stay.
that'll be fun. But for right now, I'm going to leave the mastermind to his work, and by his work, I mean downloading the videos for the
Yeah.
deep dive into misery. We're getting to that Ian Exposition episode. Aren't you excited?
I am very excited.
Anything you want to
As you
say?
know, this is me.
This is me excited. Look at
Yep.
me.
All right. Anything I want to say before I go? As you all know, I have a channel too. I'll be streaming on there pretty much every day, and see you there.
As you all know.
As I have said before as well.
As I have said before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh.
All right. Good luck with all of your raids on the Great Library, which most said didn't exist.
I'm just gonna end this here.
Do an
Goodbye.
outro. It's your channel. You do an outro.
I don't watch my content. Goodbye.